There's something in the Appalachians. I took the job because I needed the money. Nothing more noble than that. A ranger position up in the northern stretch of the Appalachian Mountains, tucked in a forgotten corner of forest where cell towers die and maps turn unreliable. The listing mentioned remote surveillance and fieldwork. I figured I'd spend most of my days checking trail markers and taking inventory of bear sightings. The pay was good. Too good. I should have known better. The station was a squat wooden structure built against the slope of the mountain. It leaned slightly to one side, as if the forest were trying to reclaim it. The front windows were boarded halfway, not with plywood but thick timber planks, old and blackened like they'd been fire-scorched. A man named Griggs handed me the keys. Thin. Mid-60s. Looked like he'd been carved out of tree bark and survived 3 winters longer than expected. He barely said a word the whole walkthrough, except to point out the generator switch, the backup radio, and the drawer I wasn't supposed to open. That last part? He didn't phrase it like a warning. He said it like a fact. Like telling someone they shouldn't drink bleach. You see anything tall out there? He added on his way out, not looking me in the eyes. You just wait it out. Then he drove away. Didn't even say goodbye. The first few days were quiet. Fog settled in each morning and burned off slow. The only sounds were wind through pine and the chatter of unseen birds. I logged my patrols, filed animal activity reports, checked in once a day over the ranger band. The station creaked at night, but that's normal for old wood. It wasn't until the 5th night that things shifted. The air turned heavier. My ears popped. And the trees got quiet. That kind of quiet where the world feels paused. Like something's waiting. It started with the static. My radio buzzed around 2 a.m. sharp bursts of white noise. I rose from bed, checked the channel. Nothing but garbled signals. I tried switching frequencies, thinking maybe someone was broadcasting an emergency ping. Nothing. Just more static, occasionally broken by what sounded like breathing. Then a knock. Not at the door. On the window. 3 slow taps. I froze. My hand found the flashlight on the nightstand. I didn't move for a long time. Not until I realized something. The window's 5 feet off the ground. Too high for a person to knock unless they were standing on something. Or unless they were tall. I eventually got the nerve to move. Opened the front door. Swept the light outside. Nothing. No footprints. No broken branches. Just a thin smear of condensation on the glass. Fingertip-sized. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, I hiked the perimeter trail. Found claw marks on a pine tree near the northern ridge. Deep ones. Not a bear. Not a cougar. These were vertical slashes, high up. 8 feet at least. Too clean. Too even. Like whatever made them wanted to be seen. At the base of the tree, a pile of rocks had been arranged in a spiral. I didn't touch them. When I got back to the station, the drawer was open. The one Griggs told me not to touch. I didn't open it. Hadn't gone near it. Inside was a single item. An old Polaroid. Faded and yellowed. Showed a ranger's station, this one, but different. Older. Less weathered. And standing in front of it were 6 men. All rangers. Their faces were scratched out. except for one. Griggs. Younger. Smiling. But not really. His eyes were wide. Too wide. Like someone had told him to smile or they'd kill him. On the back of the photo, in messy handwriting, 4 were taken. 1 came back. That afternoon, I tried the radio. Told HQ I was having issues with possible animal threats, unusual patterns in the tree line. They didn't respond. Instead, the static came back. This time clearer. A voice broke through for just a second, raspy and close, like it was whispering directly into my ear. "You shouldn't be here." Then silence. That night, I locked every door and window. Lit the fireplace. Sat with the shotgun Griggs left in the supply cabinet. I don't even remember falling asleep. But I woke up cold. Very cold. The fire was out. The station lights were off. And the front door was open. Outside, the fog was thicker than ever. Dense and heavy. Soundless. I stepped onto the porch. The air smelled wrong. Not rot. Not mildew. More like something too clean. Like chlorine. I saw it then. A figure. Tall. Thin. Standing at the edge of the tree line. Unmoving. No face. Not exactly. Just smooth. Too long in the arms. Too still. I blinked. It was gone. The next day I found another photo in the drawer. This one showed a different ranger. Standing in the woods. Smiling. Behind him, in the distance, blurred but unmistakable, was the same figure. On the back. "If you hear it in the trees, don't answer." I burned the photo. Didn't matter. That night, I woke up standing in the woods. Feet muddy. Pants wet. 20 feet from the station porch. I don't remember leaving the bed. But I remember the sound I heard as I turned back toward the building. Something far off. Knocking. Not on wood. On trees. Slow. Methodical. And somewhere beneath it. Breathing. Too loud to be mine. Too deep. And it was getting closer. The footprints weren't mine. I know that sounds like a small thing. Maybe even a paranoid stretch. But I remember my boots sinking in the mud the night I woke outside. I remember the direction I walked. But in the morning, when the fog had thinned and the sun burned its way through the clouds like a guilty afterthought, I went back to the same spot. And there were 2 sets of prints. One matched my tread, worn Saul's shallow heel. The other set was different. Longer stride. Narrow. Barefoot. Pressed deeper than the mud should allow. As if whatever made them wasn't just walking, it was sinking, but not getting stuck. Like it belonged to the mountain. I followed them for 15 yards before they stopped abruptly. No turn. No retreat. No sign of jumping or climbing. Just stopped. And that's when I saw the tree. It had something carved into it. A circle of eyes. 7 of them. Not symmetrical. Not human. They were too wide. No pupils. Just staring. And beneath them, a word. 4 letters. Keep. Not. Keep out. Not. Keep away. Just that. Keep. I felt watched the entire walk back. The woods were still making no sound. No birds. No leaves rustling. The only noise was a low hiss of wind through my teeth and the faintest scratching behind my ears, like someone trying to whisper through the bones of my skull. Back at the station, the drawer was open again. There were now 3 photos inside. I only remembered burning one. The second was of a cave mouth in the side of a hill, trees bent backward above it, like they tried to grow away. Standing at the cave's edge was the figure. Same height, same long limbs. This time, it was leaning against a tree with one hand. The bark beneath it was bleached white, like it had been drained of something. On the back of the photo, "It knocks to be let in. It doesn't need a door." I closed the drawer, locked it this time with the chain and padlock from the supply box, moved a filing cabinet in front of it. Didn't matter. At midnight the drawer was open again. The padlock was still on the handle, still locked. The filing cabinet hadn't moved. But the drawer? Wide open. And a 4th photo had joined the others. Me, standing on the porch. Last night. Head turned slightly, like I was listening. Behind me, just barely visible in the corner of the photo, was a dark shape pressed against the window, almost out of frame, as if the camera had caught it mid-step. I vomited into the sink. I tried the radio again. Any channel. Any voice. What I got back was something else. Not words. Knocking. 5 slow knocks. Pause. Then 1. Then 5 again. Same rhythm I'd heard in the trees. The same I'd started to dream about. That night I slept with the lights on. Didn't help. Because light doesn't stop what's already inside. I dreamed of the cave. Of standing at its mouth while something inside breathed in reverse. Not exhaling, pulling. A vacuum of heat and time and thought. And as I stood there, paralyzed, it whistled at me. A long, slow sound, like air over cracked lips. I woke to find a pine branch laying across my chest. Fresh. Wet with sap. There was no tree nearby it could have fallen from. There was another word scratched into the bark. Let. Keep. Let. 2 halves of a sentence I didn't want finished. The next day, I found Griggs's journal. Not hidden. Just sitting on the porch rocker, as if it had always been there. Bound in leather. Damp to the touch. Pages yellowed. I didn't want to read it, but my hands did it anyway. The entries were dated years apart. Sparse. Fragmented. Saw it again today. North tree line. Watched me for hours. Didn't blink. Don't think it has to. It whistles sometimes. Like it's trying to remember how to speak. Other rangers used to hear it too. Before they went missing. All heard it. All dreamed the cave. I think it lives in the stone. In the earth's memory. The mountain breathes and it moves through the cracks. You can't kill what was never born. The last entry. Tried to leave. Tires spun for miles. Roads led back. We're inside it. It's dreaming us. I slammed the journal shut. The whistle started an hour later. Not loud. Not near. Just a long, breathy exhale echoing through the woods. I closed the shutters. Pushed the dresser against the door. Sat in the center of the room with the shotgun and a bottle of whiskey. The fire died before I finished the drink. No wind came through the cracks. Just heat. Something standing on the other side of the wall, body radiating warmth like a furnace. No footsteps. No speech. Just that sound. Knuckles sliding slowly across wood. Then tapping. 1 knock. Pause. 5 knocks. Pause. 1 more. And a voice behind the wall, no louder than breath. "Let me keep you." I didn't respond. I didn't move. When that voice whispered from behind the wall, I held still for what felt like hours. Long after the sound faded. Long after the tapping stopped. Until the air cooled again and the breath of whatever stood just outside finally withdrew. Then I screamed. I screamed until my throat cracked and my lungs refused to keep up. Screamed because silence wasn't safety anymore. It was a response. The mountain didn't answer back. It never has to. It waits. I slept that night under the table, shotgun against my chest, ears ringing. At some point, the lights came back on. I didn't turn them on. The sun rose, eventually. That's the worst part of this place, how the sun still rises. As if nothing happened. Like nothing waits in the woods or crawls through your head or etches messages into your window panes. I found another photo that morning. Sitting on the station's front step. Propped up against the door like a gift. This one was newer. Clear. Crisp. It showed me standing at the base of the tree with a keep carving. I had my hand against the bark. Head turned, as if listening. Only I don't remember doing that. I burned this one too. Didn't matter. The ashes clung to the inside of the fireplace, arranged into the shape of an open eye. I decided then, I was going to the cave. I didn't know where it was, not exactly, but I remembered the shape from the photo. The way the hillside curved. The trees bent away. I packed light, flashlight, canteen, flare gun, the shotgun. The trail off the north ridge curved hard near mile marker 7. Past that, the pines thinned and the rocks changed color, went from dull gray to something chalky, paler, almost like bone. I walked 3 miles into the wilderness before I found it. Not a cave. Not at first. A mound. A breathing hill that pulsed with heat. The ground beneath my boots vibrated. The birds still hadn't come back. Even the wind didn't touch this place. The entrance was too narrow for something natural. Perfect oval. Smooth edges. Not carved, grown. Around it, the ground was bare. No leaves, no insects, not even moss. Just dry dirt, and those footprints again. Bare. Too long. Toes stretched. Pressed inches deep into packed soil. I should have run. Should have buried it, turned back, never spoken of it again. But something about the air. It pulled. Inside the cave, I lost all concept of time. The light bent. The walls pulsed, pinkish, wet in places, dry in others. Veins? Fungi? I don't know. It didn't feel like rock. It felt alive. Deeper in, the passage widened. Opened into a room. Circular. 20 feet wide. 10 feet high. The walls were covered in carvings. Handprints. All sizes. Dozens of them. Some pressed in fresh. Some fossilized. All facing inward, toward the center, toward the altar. It wasn't stone. It was teeth. Not human. Longer. Thinner. Curved. Polished and arranged in a spiral, forming a platform. And on top of it, a badge. Griggs's. But when I reached for it, something opened behind me. A noise, deep and hollow. The same whistling in reverse. The same sound I heard in the dream. Then came the knocking again. Not from the walls this time. From inside me. Sharp pain behind my ribs. Thud. 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 I dropped to my knees. Coughed. Felt something crawl up my throat like thread being pulled from my chest. When it finally left me, I gasped. The sound that came out wasn't human. Not mine. Just breathing. It was breathing through me. I don't know how I got back to the station. Memory folds in on itself here. I remember trees parting for me, the path flattening as I staggered, something whispering my name, but not from behind. From underfoot. That night, the drawer wasn't just open. It was empty. All the photos gone. Replaced by a single piece of paper. Typed. Clean. One sentence. You're part of the map now. I tried the radio again. No static. No voice. Just one tone. Low. Long. Like a tuning fork pressed against my skull. I turned it off. That was when I saw the map. On the wall. I hadn't noticed it before. Old. Faded. A topographic layout of the range. Forests, fire towers, ranger trails. But now, something was marked. Tiny red pins. One at the station. One at the cave. And one new. Directly beneath my bunk. I tore the floor up in a frenzy. Boards splintering. Nails flying. There it was. A hatch. Iron. Bolted. Covered in a layer of dirt and something sticky. No hinge, just a seam. Carved into it, deeply, violently. Let it keep you. As I stared at it, the hatch began to vibrate. From below, that low whistle began again. And it was whistling my name. I didn't open the hatch. But I didn't move either. I just stood there, crouched over the ripped floorboards, listening as the thing beneath the cabin whistled my name, again and again, like a lullaby too slow to comfort and too old to understand. It shouldn't have known it. Not my name. Not the sound of it, the shape of it. That's what got to me the most. That name belonged to my mother's voice, long gone. That name was mine only in private, buried under years of cold introductions and forgotten paperwork. But it knew, and it was saying it right. The whistling eventually stopped, but not before something scratched the hatch from the inside. Not loud. Just enough to remind me the surface was paper thin. It could come through whenever it wanted. It just didn't need to rush. I pushed the floorboards back, sealed the hatch with my gear trunk, nailed it down with shaking hands. That night, the generator cut out. No wind. No reason. Just silence and a deep, buzzing pressure of being watched through the walls by something without eyes, something feeling for you like fingertips through damp paper. The fire wouldn't light. The flashlight flickered. The air moved, slow currents that carried smells of moss and copper and open wounds. And when I looked out the window, the woods had changed. The trees weren't where they'd been. The ones that should have been far were now close. Crooked. Their trunks pressed in, shoulders huddled like mourners at a graveside. Some of them breathed. I swear it. I saw fog pour out of their bark like steam from an open mouth. In the clearing, something tall stood perfectly still. Not the same figure as before. This one looked like a tree, until it shifted. Limbs where no joints should bend. No face. No mouth. But I still heard it speak. Not with sound. Inside my head. "You're waking up wrong." I backed away. Fell against the desk. The map on the wall now showed new pins. Red ones. All over the forest. Some blinking. Some static. And one, moving. Coming closer to the station. I watched it for a full minute before realizing what it was tracking. Me. The map was following me. And just beside the moving pin was a line of text that hadn't been there before. Keep. Let. Wake. Map. You are the last step. I packed what I could carry. Tried the radio one last time. A voice came through. Crisp. Familiar. Griggs. "You feel it now, don't you?" He sounded far away. Tired. Wet. "You weren't hired to watch the forest. You were brought here to anchor it. Someone's gotta stand on the seam. Keep it from fully waking. Someone has to remember where the cave sleeps." Then static. No goodbye. No warning. The lights exploded. Glass everywhere. The wind came back, inside the cabin, not outside. Whirling. Hot. Whipping the papers from the desk and turning the fire pit to ash. I ran. Into the trees. No flashlight. Just the moon and my boots and the sound of the forest groaning in its sleep. It wasn't a forest anymore. Not really. The path curved in ways that shouldn't exist. Uphill led down. My breath fogged before it left my mouth. Trees whispered with voices I recognized. Childhood friends, teachers, ex-lovers, all speaking the same phrase. "You came back wrong." I found a marker stone around dawn. One of the old survey posts. Buried under moss. Etched with something new. Griggs, 1981 kept. I found more as I walked. Other names. Other dates. All ending in kept. Not buried. Not lost. Just kept. I don't know how long I walked before I came back to the cabin. But I did. Of course I did. It had moved. Or maybe the woods folded around it. Either way, it was waiting for me. And the hatch? Open. The floorboards were neatly stacked beside it. No sign of nails. Just a black square descending into dark that smelled like stone and breath. No light came up. But sound did. Knocking. Same rhythm. 5. 1. 5. And a word rising with it. Over and over. Soft. Wet. Stay. 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 I should have run. But the forest no longer allowed running. So I knelt at the hatch. Looked down into the dark. And saw something blink. I don't remember climbing down. I only remember the feeling of the ladder. Wood, but wrong. Warmer than it should be. Damp. Like a tongue pretending to be timber. Each rung throbbed as I passed. Alive. Pleased. When my boots touched solid ground, the hatch sealed behind me. No slam. No drama. Just a quiet, polite click. The kind that says you're inside now. You can let go of hope. I didn't turn back. There was no light. But I could still see. The tunnel curved downward in tight spirals, pulsing every few seconds, like lungs exhaling deep under the mountain. The walls weren't rock anymore. They were flesh. Or memory pretending to be flesh. Names drifted past me, whispered from within the walls. Some I knew. Griggs. Monroe. Others older. Wetter. Words no tongue I'd ever heard, but they all meant the same thing. You were always here. I passed a mirror, small, cracked, framed in twisted roots. When I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw the cabin. From the outside. Empty. Dark. And standing in the clearing. Me. Waving. But not to the mirror. To the forest. Like I was welcoming something back. The path split. Left and right. One marked with a handprint. Human. The other was something else. A tooth. Still wet. I chose the hand. I don't know why. Maybe because it still pretended to care about my shape. The tunnel widened again. Opened into a chamber. Circular. Pulsing. The same room from the cave. But different. No altar this time. Just walls covered in coats. Ranger coats. Dozens of them. Each one pinned to the wall with a long, scarlet hook. And inside each coat, a body. Slumped. Still. Face gone. Just the shell. Emptied out, like a memory drained through the ears. I walked past them all, their name tags cracked, blood slicked. Each one ended with the same word burned into the chest. Kept. I found my coat hanging last. Still empty. Still clean. Tag stitched fresh. Ranger redacted kept. Beneath it, folded on a wooden chair, was a page from Griggs's journal. The final entry. Scrawled in frantic loops. The mountain doesn't forget. It just waits. The job was never patrol. The job is containment. Memory is the fence. You forget, it wakes. Every ranger's a nail in the lid. That's why we scratch in our sleep. That's why we dream in bark. If you're reading this, you already heard it. You already scratched. You already belong. I picked up the coat. The walls whispered approval. The air filled with the scent of pine sap and rot. I turned to leave, but there was no tunnel now. Just forest. Somehow, the chamber had opened to the outside. A clearing. Tall trees. Faint light like dawn, or dusk, trickling through. And at the center of it all, a mirror. Not cracked. Clear. Framed in antlers. I looked. This time, I saw myself. But I didn't blink. The reflection blinked after. And then it stepped out. Walked past me. Wearing the coat. Carrying my name. Smiling the way I never do. I turned back to the mirror. It was just glass again. And now I was on the other side. Looking out. Watching me walk away. Into the forest. To take up the patrol. to wave at travelers and fix trail markers and warn the next one about the drawer they shouldn't open. And here I stay. In the dark. Inside the mountain's teeth. It doesn't hurt. Not anymore. There's no pain in being part of the structure. No fear when you become the dreamer instead of the dream. Only the rhythm remains. 5 scratches. 1. 5. A heartbeat in wood. A breath through stone. And the whisper behind every tree. Let it keep you. Let it map you. Let it wake. And when it does, when the next ranger arrives, I'll be the one who knocks.